All right. It says C is directly west of A, and A is 110 degrees, B is 28 degrees, and C is 42 degrees. So I will label those. 110 degrees. 28 degrees. 42 degrees. Is everybody okay so far? I'm going to situate myself. I'm going to put myself in a position. Would you like to sit at point A or would you like to sit at point C? You choose. Okay, let's go to A. And as I go to A, I'm going to draw my little compass right on A. Where this is north, this is east, this is south, and this is west. Somebody tell me the bearing, the directional bearing to get from A to C. What direction do I travel? I travel straight west. So A to C is going to be straight west. Now, instead of a direction, give me a number. 270 degrees. Everybody okay with the first example? I would like to now position myself at C. If I'm sitting at C and I want to travel to A, give me a description of what direction I would travel. I would travel east. Give me a numerical description of what that is. 90 degrees. Is everybody okay with that? Now is where the fun begins because we've run out of the obvious choices, haven't we? At this point, we make a grid of north and south and east and west lines. Watch. Just drawing a grid of north, east, west, and south lines. And then using these triangles, we can start to piece together some other things. If this angle is 42, what should this angle be? What would they add up to? Not 180, but 90. And so this would be 48 degrees. See, I have a triangle here. How many degrees does the triangle add up to? 180. Well, 180 minus 90 is 90, minus 48 is 42. How about this angle right here? Right triangle, so 42 and 28 make 70. So this would be 20. So 48, 90, and 42 all have to add up to 180 because that's a triangle. 20, these three all have to add up to 90 because it's a right angle. And so then I have a triangle right here. 180 minus 90 is 90, minus 20 is 70 degrees. There's multiple ways to come up with those. You see right here that 180 and 70 make 180 or a straight line. But there's some options to figuring it out. But if I draw that, it'll help me figure out the rest of the pieces. So here's where you really got to pay attention. We really got to focus through this part, okay? I'm now going to travel from C to B. I'm going to go from C to B. Okay, what two directions will I travel to get from C to B? Northeast. Is everybody okay with that? I travel northeast. Now, here's how you describe it. You always write north or south first, and then you always write east or west second. The question is, from the north line, how many degrees do I turn to the east? How many degrees do I turn to the east? 48. So that means from north, I turn 48 degrees to the east. Okay, I've got my C locations taken care of. C to A to C, C to B. Those are taken care of. Would you like to move to B or back to A? Let's move to B. B is going to be easy. We'll move to B. Somebody give me a description of what direction I travel to get from B to C. South, west. From south, how many degrees to the west do I turn? I turn 48 degrees to the west. You see that? We're still at B. Let's go to A. If I want to go from B to A, what direction is that? Southwest, right? Still southwest to get from B to A. Now, if I want to go from B to A, how many degrees do I turn from the south to the west? I only turn 20. And now we get just a little bit trickier, okay? Not too much, but a little bit. I now need to position myself at A. Okay? I'm at A right here. Do you see that this angle is 70? How much would this angle have to be right here? 20. Right? Because 70 and 20 make 90 degrees. Okay? So if this whole thing right here is 110, then that piece would be 20 and this would be 90. Okay? So it's just tougher to see because it kind of sits in the middle. But what direction would you travel to get from A to B? Describe it. North, east. So from north, how many degrees do you turn to the east? You turn 20 degrees to the east. Stay on the front. We got one more way to write it down yet. So if you notice, I'm waiting for this to stop blinking. There we go. 20 degrees to the east. There's some important characteristics to keep in mind here, okay? As you can see, I have 270 and 90 were these numerical descriptions. On the test, you get a choice. You can give what I refer to as a directional bearing or a numerical bearing, okay? And I'll show you the numerical bearing. So you said from C to A was 90 and A to C was 270. That's easy. Let's talk about A to B. If you're going from A down, or I'm sorry, if you're going from A to B, okay, you can see that this is 0 degrees straight north, right? How many degrees past 0 did you turn? 20 degrees. So the numerical bearing is 20. Look at if we go from B to A. If I'm going to go from B to A, I got to turn past south, right? What is the bearing south? What's the numerical bearing south? 180. So if I turn 20 degrees past 180, how much is that? 200. Look at from B to C. if I'm going to go from B over here to C, I turned 48 past what? 48 past 180. What's 48 past 180? 228. Look at from C to B. I turned 48 past 0. What's 48 past 0? 48. Now, you're maybe wondering why do some people choose one over the other. And next time we do an example, we'll actually lay them out together so you can understand better. I always divide them up. But here's the nice check. Look at this first one, A to B and B to A. If I'm walking to a point and I turn around, okay, so I'm walking to the door, and then I turn around, how many degrees did I turn? 180. Look, if you're going from A to B and B to A, what's the difference between these two? 180. If you're going from B to C and then C to B, what's the difference between these two? 180. If you're going from A to C and C to A, what's the difference between these two? So you should see that they're both off by 180, and that should confirm that you did it correctly. The second thing is look at this. A to B, northeast. B to A, southwest, and they're both 20. B to C, southwest. C to B, northeast, and they're both 48. A to C, C to A, east and west. Exactly opposite. So there's some nice ways to check. Okay, let's try a different one, okay? You got your feet wet. We'll move through it just a little bit more quickly. I think you'll be comfortable with this. So I'm going to label these pieces. It says that B is directly north of A. Let's start at A or B. Which one do you want to start at? Want to start at B? Let's start at B. So I have north, east, south, and west. All right, let's go from B to A. What's the direction from B to A? South. Give me a numerical bearing. 180. Everybody okay there? Let's move down to A. How do we get from A to B? What direction do we go? Give me the numerical bearing. 0 degrees or 360. Either one is fine. Right? I'm kind of out of luck now until I start drawing my triangle. So let's make that grid and draw a triangle, okay? Make my grid. I've got some 90-degree angles here. Somebody see an angle I can fill in? Give me an angle, somebody. What do I got? Okay, so this one right here is going to be 40 degrees, right? Because you've got 50, and that makes 90. Good. So then I have a triangle here. I've got 40 and 90, and that all has to add up to 180. So this is going to be 50 degrees here. Okay. How about this one right next to 68? Can I figure that out? 22 because it has to add a 90. Good. And then this is going to be 68 over here because it has to add to 180. There we go. So we've got all our angles figured out. Bergen said let's start at B, so I'm going to go back to B. I know what B to A is, but let's go B to C. Give me the direction from B to C. South, west. How many degrees to the west of south do I turn? 50. What is the bearing south? What's the bearing south? Give me a number. Numerical bearing south. Somewhere between 0 and 360. 180. So if I turn 50 past 180, how much is that? 50 past 180. 230. Let's go down to A. We already know A to B. Let's do A to C. Give me the description of A to C. What direction is it? Northwest. How many degrees to the west of north do you turn? 68 degrees to the west of north. What is the numerical bearing north? 360. So will I do 360 plus 68 or 360 minus 68? 360 minus 68, and you get 292. Okay, where's my final place to go? Where do I need to set up? Let's set up at C. You can see things get kind of jumbled here a little bit. I want to go from C to B. Give me a direction to go from C to B. North, east. From north, how many degrees do I turn to the east? 50. North is 0. Do I go 50 past north or 50 back of north? I go 50 past north, so that would be just 50 degrees. Now let's go from C to A. Give me a description of going from C to A. South, east. From my south line, how many degrees do I turn back to the east? I turn 68 degrees back to the east. So what is your bearing south? 180. If I go 68 back of 180, 112. Let's check. North and south, those are opposite. Southwest and northeast, those are opposite, and they're both 50. Northwest and southeast, those are opposite, and they're both 68. Look at my numerical bearings. Different by 180, different by 180, different by 180. I can feel confident that it's right. You try number 3 on your own. Wait a minute. No, we don't want to do number 3 on our own. Did I hand out the worksheet? Okay, we're going to try example 1 on the worksheet on your own. We don't, that one's a little bit too complicated right now. Okay, so you two people were doing example 1 here. Or problem 1 from the worksheet. Reduces your homework by 1 problem. Well, thank you, Mr. Gantz. You're welcome. Okay, let's pause. Let's see where you're at. I've got it drawn. Make sure that this is a little bit what you have drawn. And let's go through some of the pieces together. I'm going to start at A, and I'm going to go A to C. I'm going from A to C. What's the direction? South. Give me a numerical bearing. 180. Anybody got a question on that one? Okay, then I'm going to go from C to A. What's the direction? And I call that 0 degrees or 360. Now, You tell me where you chose to go from there. Did you want to stay at C? Did you want to go to A? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? You want to finish C. So I'm standing at C. I'm going to describe C to B. What does C to B look like? Northeast. So C to B is northeast. So from north, how far do I turn to the east? I heard 65 out there. What is the bearing north? Give me a number. 0. So do I turn 65 past or 65 behind? I turned 65 degrees past 0. So that's a 65-degree bearing. Good. All right, let's go up to A. Let's go A to B. What's the bearing from A to B? Give me a direction. Southeast. From south, how many degrees did you turn towards the east? Turn 60. So that's, what's the bearing south? Give me a number. What's 180? So do I turn 60 back or 60 in front? 60 back. So what's 60 back of 180? 120. Okay, so I've got 4 of them. I now have to go over to B. It's not the most fun place over here because, you know, we got a lot of stuff written down, but hopefully we can figure it out. I'm sitting at B. Give me a direction of B to A. North, west. From north, how many degrees did I turn to the west? 60. So north is 360. Did I turn 60 back or 60 in front? Back. 60 back of 360 is 300. Now I'm going to go from B to C. Give me a direction of B to C. South, west. So from south, how many degrees to the west? 65. Is that 65 past 180 or 65 behind 180? 65 past 180 for a total of 235 degrees. And you can check, you know, they, like I said, they all match up. Northeast, or southeast, northwest, southwest, northeast. See, 60, 60, 65, 65. These are different by 180. These are different by 180. These are different by 180. So your assignment is in front of you. Let me tell you what we're going to do tomorrow after I turn off the video, okay?